is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Four for four. It sounds better as a deal at your local fast food place than it does when it's one of your competitors clicking off wins. Dudignon has proven unstoppable at the start of 2019, and there haven't been any signs that his dominance will end soon. But Barber could yet change that with its demanding and technical layout. Will anyone be able to shave a few points into his already astonishing lead? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 5 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Johan Vandenbelt. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Ducky Beard. Johan, Barber is a bit new compared to many race tracks, especially on the roadside, so why don't you fill us in on this place?
Yeah, exactly. Barber Motorsports Park is one of the newest racetracks in the United States. It's located in Birmingham, Alabama, and was opened in 2003. And this 3.8 kilometer track is mostly known for hosting the Indy Grand Prix of Alabama, but also hosts several other events for motorcycle and endurance races. And like the drivers have surely found out by now, Barber is a very technical track. Corners follow each other in quick succession, which means that drivers can never really relax and prepare themselves for the next one. This salvo of turns makes overtaking very difficult, but is negated a bit by the fact that the track is a nice 50 meters wide at all times. But at the same time drivers tangle with the 16 corners Barber has to offer, they also endure over 30 meters of track elevation. And all these factors considered, it almost feels like you're in a roller coaster soaring through the Alabamian forest. And to give you a feel of how that looks like from aboard the car, let's hop in our GSRC LOTUS 49 for a lap around Barber.
All right, we've got Ben Zoko in the GSRC LOTUS 49, so let's do a lap around Barber. Coming down to turn 1, the track drops away quite a bit, making this a pretty difficult corner for overtaking. It also swings back immediately into the Alabama roller coaster, which is a long, carousel-like turn with 2 apexes and multiple elevation changes. It requires serious patience with the throttle, and even once you're past it, you've got to contend with the crested turn 4. That now takes us on our way to Charlotte's Web, which is usually the only ideal place for overtakes. But the big drop right when you're getting on the binders makes it embarrassingly easy to overshoot the turn. The track then opens up on the exit, making another case where it's tough to get fully back onto the throttle. Hug the left side, and now you've got the frightening museum corner to navigate. You might sometimes see passes into here, but I advise against trying to go through too wide. 3 apexes, a giant blind run downhill, and then another curving acceleration zone. This is an underrated monster of a corner. On the back half of the course, you first deal with 10 and 11. You can glance the curbs, but take too much and the car won't be planted enough to carry your speed. Then switch sides right away, and 12 and 13 present you with a far different chicane. It's a swift first part that then compresses into the second half, and suddenly there's a giant rise that leaves you struggling for grip. You can barely get back to the throttle for a moment before 14 and 15, which is another frustratingly long corner. But this one tightens up and requires you to hug the inside so that you can set up for 16. Avoid putting wheels in the grass as you exit because many cars have ended their race being spun into the pit wall. But hopefully you've now finished a lap around Barber. They see a lap around here at Alabama at Barber Motorsports Park in the Lotus 49. Going to be a tricky one, as a lot of drivers have complained about that. But no complaining if you're Michel Dudignon with the points so far. Up at the top, 200. That is a perfect score after 4 rounds. And, of course, 28 points back. McClarridge has been trying to give chase and, well, not quite perfect in terms of second places. He's only missed one of them. So he's at least keeping him in touch, but he's got some work to do. Billy Bob Wright is in 4th, and the Gary Teal pops himself back up into the top 5. The good news, at least for the other drivers, is it doesn't look like Michel has shown up today, so at least they can try to make some inroads on him. Let's see about the F2 championship, though, Johan. Is that just as far apart?
I mean, it's a little bit closer than the Formula One Championship, but it's still very exciting there as well, because David Rossi has been on top basically the whole season. Now, he isn't as consistent as Michel de Leon, but he's pretty consistent as well, scoring a podium place in every race so far this season. You can see he's currently sitting on top, 10 points in front of Andrew Eng. Andrew Eng and Hideki Kofisto basically been neck to neck the whole season as well. Both of these drivers have scored 3 podiums so far, and you can see that these 3 drivers have distanced themselves quite a bit to the rest of the championship. Robert Reynolds is currently sitting in P4. He is currently the best of the rest, but he's being chased down by Alex Cameron, who won 1 position last time out, and Suzuka is currently sitting P5.
Let's take a glance at the Constructors' Championship as well and see where that's sitting. Naturally, pretty easy to figure out France there on top. UK, though, 25 points back there in second. There have been no changes since the last round, just the points obviously being changed a bit since our round last week at Suzuka. The US still in third, Finland in fourth, and Australia in fifth. What about the race details here today? It's been a while since I've been here in Alabama for this series, Johan. So what do we got on board?
Yeah, this race in Barber is round 5 of our 12-round championship. You can see 2 watermarks behind it. That means that there's 2 drop weeks. That means that only the 10 best results of all the drivers will be counted in their championship battle. Barber today, we have a 25-lap race for you on the menu. All the drivers will have open setups. That means that they can tweak it just to their liking to really tackle this very twisty and technical circuit. And the points, they pay out to 25th position.
And if you enjoy this sort of racing, thanks for joining us here in the iRacing Esports Network. But please consider subscribing to them, because you can find lots more like this. You saw in the intro just some of the few series that you can catch here on IESN. If you subscribe, you won't miss a moment. Now, for the drivers, the good news is you may have noticed it's a little bit dark out there, and it is, of course, only 77 degrees on the track because of the cloud cover that they've got today. So probably going to be pretty grippy out there, and the drivers have very little time where they're full throttle, so that should hopefully help them find that little bit more speed, maybe make passing a little bit easier as well. But bad news for Mick Claridge here, Johan. You noticed in practice what I'm noticing in qualifying. Mick is not the fastest guy today.
No, but he's coming around the final corner now for his second lap time. Let's see how quick he is, because he's behind Dave Price. Dave Price, however, had an off track on the second lap, so he won't get another shot. Mick does, and he grabs them with both hands. Goes half a second quicker than Dave Price. So although he wasn't the quickest in practice, he surely steps up in qualifying, and Mick is on professional pole.
Oof, could have saved his bacon. Let's see what he can do in the race, though. He could easily hold Dave behind as we watch Matt Wright finish his qualifying here. As we mentioned, going to be tough to try and pass around this track. And the Australian looks like he is going to abandon this last lap in qualifying. Relatively short lap times despite the large number of corners on this circuit. A little less than a minute and a half around here. Looking to see if there are any drivers yet to complete their second lap. Francisco Gutierrez going to be one to finish his second one up, and that will put him in 19th, it looks like I'm seeing. 16th, actually, out there on the grid. So he's not going to improve a whole lot. Other than that, there's nobody left to finish their qualifying because everybody's got their 2 laps in already with 2 minutes left to go. A little early to go to the grid, so we give that a little bit of time before we read that out. But Johan, this is going to be fascinating because it's been so long since we've raced these cars here. I wonder if we've got a number of drivers that have not raced this circuit with the 49 before.
I mean, and that's one of the things that I kind of was noticing in qualifying, how many drivers are getting off tracks during the laps. We have an incredible amount of 4 drivers not setting a qualifying lap time by just getting those off tracks. Several other drivers as well, just only getting 1 official lap in because the other one was not counted. So it seems like you were saying maybe the fact that we haven't been here in Alabama for a while is just catching drivers out a little bit, and they aren't as consistent as they normally can be.
Ove Trangrade looking for some better results. He's one of the ones that's out there still warming up. He's taken both of his qualifying laps, so at this point he's just getting as much practice in as possible. Certainly taking, there's one of your off tracks right there, Johan. You were talking about that first chicane on the backstretch, just how hard it is in this car.
And the second chicane that you just see Ove Trangrade going through, that one as well. It seems like drivers are just catching themselves out when they hit the curbstone. So that may be something interesting to watch for during the race. Once they hit that curbstones, if they are actually capable to hold their car in a straight line, because it seems like a lot of drivers are struggling from oversteer as the aluminium sun is getting through the clouds and it's getting a little bit lighter on track.
So at least it'll look a little bit nicer on the broadcast. It will heat the track up slightly. It's gone up to 79 degrees already out there. With that little spin, it looks like Ove's done with his warm-up. So let's go through our starting grid for today. Mick Claridge, as we mentioned, snatching the pole, but by a pretty big margin, at least in qualifying. Dave Price a whole half second back, but on the front row. Billy Bob Wright, who expressed his displeasure in the warm-up with this track, will be starting third, so at least he's got some qualifying pace. Angelica Pawlowski will be fourth, with Gary Teal starting P5. Marco Kika, who's shown some improvement lately, will be starting from sixth position. Matt Wright will be seventh. Daniel Sadro P8 when the green drops, with Paul Foster following him in ninth, and rounding out row 5 and 10th, it'll be Ove Trangrade.
Yeah, the first person outside of the top 10 is our Formula 2 leader, David Rossi. He qualifies 1/10 in front of Richard Morin in P12. Row 7 will be filled by Grant Patullo and Philippe Burkhardt. P15 we can find Jean-Francois Boscout. Next to him, Francisco Javier Gutierrez. On row 9, it's Hideki Koifisto. And then those are the 4 drivers without a qualifying time, being led by Alex Cameron in P18, Telmo Amaral in P19. P20 goes to Don Good, and the final position on the grid today goes to Robert Reynolds in P21.
So a slightly smaller grid than we're used to seeing in this series lately, but still pretty healthy, about what you would have seen on the grid in 1967 in terms of the number of cars. Just waiting for the last of the field to grid up. Just got Trangrade, Wright, and Teal yet to go. Drivers making sure they've got the right setup in the car, the correct amount of fuel, as you shouldn't expect to see any scheduled stops here in this series. You can see them all lining up on the grid now, with the sun still out there, and it has jumped up to 86 degrees because of that. So it is continuing to warm up. That also could catch drivers out. The changing conditions that we've seen here in this latest season on iRacing, with the new weather that they've got, with clouds coming in and out, hiding the sun or revealing it. And it looks like everybody is out on the grid. So the engines start to rev as the lights come up. Green flag is out here in round 5 in the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series. Mick Claridge with a nice jump over Dave Price. And in fact, Price a little bit under threat from Billy Bob Wright down into turn 1. They get single file, just one car off, I see in the background. But otherwise, this is a clean start for the first couple of corners. Now they head towards Charlotte's Web.
There was Hideki Koifisto getting a little trip through the grass. He didn't have anything and he could continue on his way. Single file, but it seems like Angelica Pawlowski is defending her position to Gary Teal, who tries it around the outside there of the hairpin. Very long corner, but the inside does prove beneficial for Angelica. You can keep that position with Matt Wright taking a look behind that couple as well.
Down through one of the scariest corners in racing, if you ask me. Through Museum Corner, we got a car off. That is Matt Wright cutting the course. Well, that is certainly going to cause him a lot of headache here in the first lap. And you can see him continuing to slow to try and let cars by and give the time back that the sim thinks that he has gained. Everybody else seems to be taking this first lap pretty safely here under the 1 p.m. sky in Alabama. Already getting ready to complete the first lap. Mick Claridge, your leader, as they come to the final corner. Dave Price following him in second. Billy Bob Wright is in third, but he has dropped back and is under threat from Angelica back there in fourth.
Angelica doesn't get a good run out of the last corner to try and move, but Paul Foster a few corners ago got always of sideways there, trying to take an overtaking maneuver on the car in front of him of Marco Kika. And this might give Daniel Sadro behind him another overtaking opportunity. These two drivers are very close. This is the battle for P7 with Ove Trangrade taking a look as well. 3 cars coming out of turn 3 now. very close. Maybe we'll see another overtaking attempt here in the hairpin. Not close enough this time to... Oh, there's a... Take a look there. Very late lunge from Grand Prix. Doesn't get it slowed down on time. Has a little half spin and gets overtaken because of that by several drivers, including David Rossi.
Yes, and you can see he gets the car going again, but unfortunately is now really in the thick of it. Thankfully, most of them get it sorted out by the time they hit Museum Corner. All of them plunging down the hill, drivers very close to one another. And I wonder if we're going to see some very tense battles throughout the rest of this race, with a few drivers having those errors, now being out of position according to their pace. You can see a little bit of side-by-side action there between Patullo and Richard Morin. Morin is able to get him down through 12 and 13, up and over the hump, and now around the second carousel on this track to finish the lap.
There's a four-car battle now with Alex Cameron and Philippe Urquhart very close together, these four drivers. Alex Cameron take a little look on the inside of Philippe. In front of them it's Grand Prix getting it very wrong, and that gives Philippe Urquhart immediately opportunity to get by. Alex Cameron cannot profit from it, although he takes a little look there on the inside of turn 1 and he gets that position. Grant lets him by. That's several drivers getting by Patullo there in the final two corners.
Patullo looks like he really needs to calm down. That is many positions lost in the car. Does not look in good shape. So as he finally stops the bleeding, it looks like, as he holds back Jean-Francois Boscus, he is going to settle into 15th position from all that. Now, he did start in 13th, so he seems to have gained some at the start and then re-lost all of them. So that is not too bad of a loss for him. Certainly would have been better here on lap 3 to be way farther up the field than he is. Speaking of which, if we take a glance back up the field, Claridge holding Dave Price at arm's length, about 1.1 second right now, and they continue to drop Billy Bob Wright back there in third.
And I don't think Billy Bob Wright does have the speed at this moment to bring the battle to Dave Price and Mick Claridge. Let's see as they come over start-finish line how quick they were last time around. Mick Claridge did a 1:21.1. Dave Price was 0.3 of a second slower. That increases the gap to over a second now.
So most of our top of the field really spreading apart. Things finally get close when you get down to 7th position. Paul Foster very much under threat from Daniel Sadro as they come around the Alabama roller coaster and then up and over turn 4. Sadro looking like he's struggling to find the power and drops off the back of Foster at the crucial moment, breaking here into Charlotte's Web. So he's not going to be able to make an attack into that hairpin. It switches back around and leads them down to Museum Corner.
And Daniel Sadler was a little bit quicker than Paul Foster in qualifying, around 1/10 of a second, but it just seems like Paul really profited from the first lap opportunity that you have at the start. He won 2 positions, and from that moment in the race he's just defending very hard, very thoroughly, and that's paying dividends to him so far. 2 positions up in P7 right now.
That's Ove Trangrade in that purple machine, that you see behind him, who has been running him down. Ove mentioned that he had missed a little bit of racing, so he was a little rusty, but it seems to be coming back to him now. He qualified in 10th position. He's up to 9th and looking to see if he can snatch these 2 that are right in front of him now.
There's a car in the pits that is, let me see, Robert Reynolds. I don't think he has hit anything. He was driving around in 21st position. He is the first person to visit his pit crew here today at Barber.
Yeah, he's awful slow down pit lane, and like I said, or like you said, didn't see any damage, so not sure what exactly is going on there. Meanwhile, Angelica Pavlowski continues to really pressurize Billy Bob Wright, hoping to take that 3rd position away from him. Ooh, Billy Bob a little bit wide through there, coming into Museum Corner, but collects it back together, gets the run off the corner and keeps himself safe. Angelica's not going to get an opportunity for now.
Yeah, we were talking about it. It's so difficult here, however, to create an opportunity to try that overtaking maneuver. You almost have to wait until the person in front of you makes a mistake. That is the moment that you have to pounce on it and go for that, as Angelica is the one making a mistake, going a little bit wider on the exit of turn 12. Gets it slowed down in time, so he doesn't lose a lot of seconds there. few car lengths to Billy Bopper, the track time that he has won the last few laps. So all for nothing now, it has to be won again.
Pavlowski's got to be careful with where you go off, especially on that turn 13. There's not a lot of runoff on that corner. You can see up at the top of the screen, Claridge just set the fastest lap, which means he's extending his gap over the field to 2.2 seconds now. Looking relatively safe up at the front of the field. Mistakes could yet still throw that away. He's not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination in this 25-lap race. We'll see if Dave Price can try to run him down. Certainly is the reverse of what we saw in warm-up. Whatever Mick has figured out in between there, well, it's certainly working in his favor.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to ask to Dave Price at the end of the race if he could have gone quicker in qualifying, because he didn't get a second qualifying time, and that just really hurt him. He didn't have a single second opportunity to try and beat McLaren's time. That actually might be the deciding factor of who started the race in front of who and who got in front of who after turn 1.
So we ride on board with Dave Price. One thing that amazes me too, it really tells the story of the difficulty of this track. You see the cars saw at the wheel a lot typically when you ride on board, but this, missing a gear coming out of the corner is certainly not going to help Dave Price. But I would say anytime we've been on board with someone, I've been amazed at just how much the drivers have been having to correct the cars at this track.
Extremely. This is such a difficult car to drive on this track because the amount of full throttle alone, that's different than the sawing, but it's a bare minimum is maybe 10 seconds of full throttle that you have in a lap here. All those corners that you go half throttle over, they create a lot of oversteer. You have to counter steer all the time just to make sure that you keep pointing in the right direction. It's an extremely difficult track to try and race fast at. These drivers are really showing that out here, so if you can do that, keep the car in the straight line and also do overtaking opportunities to try to overtake someone, that's a really impressive feat.
We've been watching poor Ove Trangaré try his hardest to overtake Daniel Sadro. He's been incredibly close to the back of him. You can see here as we ride on board with Daniel, he's hounding him at every corner, but can't quite find a way by. He's fast out of the first chicane, but it is just not much of a passing opportunity here into the second chicane. Just up ahead of them, that's Paul Foster blinking a significant amount, and that's going to make it difficult for these two if they start to get close to him.
Yeah, I think that was the reason that Ove Trangaré just backed up a little bit through that very fast turn 11, turn 12 sector of the track, just to see where Paul Foster would end up again when his connection kicked in. That immediately means that he loses a little bit of time to Daniel Sadro, and he has to try it once again to get to the rear of it.
Oh, and there's a big slide that Ove Trangaré somehow catches. Can we get an... Well, he's not done yet. He's still sliding. Now he's got it going once again. Let's watch this from on board. Talk about crossing him up. And this is nothing new from what we've seen Ove over the years driving. He tends to get the car a little loose. Woo! Nice catch.
Nice catch. Lucky for him, because it almost seemed like he almost touched the grass on under braking, and that sent his car in a little spin. Of course, the tires overheating because of that, and that sent him in a little slide in the next corner as well. Now, luckily for the Norwegian, he doesn't lose a lot of track position. He still has Daniel Sadro and Paul Foster in his sights. But he has to keep it calm though, because it seems almost, Joe, that he's quicker than the two drivers in front of him. He just cannot find the last bit he needs to try and set himself up for an overtake.
I agree. He looks like he is the fastest of these three. Meanwhile, on screen, or excuse me, in 12th, Gutierrez. This is in 19th. Something happened to Francisco. Oh, and it looks like Museum Corner caught another driver out. Just some snap oversteer, and around it went.
Yeah, very easy to do there. If you brake a little bit too late in that corner, it's basically all she wrote. There's not a lot you can do about it afterwards. Now another driver or battle that's heating up a little bit is that one for P14, Alex Cameron, Grant Petullo behind him. These two drivers have been neck to neck or nose to tail for the past 5-6 laps. Grant Petullo taking a little looking on the inside of turn 2, turn 3 there. And I was actually a little bit amazed by the speed that Alex Cameron was showing in the beginning of the race. He had a really horrible start, almost dropped all the way to last place, but quickly found 7 positions and fought his way to P14. Now it seems that he doesn't have the speed to try and attack Philippe Urquhart in front of him. And he actually has to look in his rearview mirrors to keep Grand Prix behind.
Patullo, another one of those drivers that dropped a lot of positions as he slides really wide on his way into Museum Corner. Gets the power back down once again. He's got to not just watch ahead, but behind. Jean-Francois certainly is giving him a little bit of something to think about. Another small off track for Grant, but I don't think he's going to lose that position here on the backstretch as these drivers continue to stay in position. Again, this is Alex Cameron 14th, Patullo 15th, and Boscu in 16th position. The track now is up to 89 degrees, so it is getting a little bit hotter as we go throughout the race. Could explain why we're seeing a lot of slipping and sliding around.
Yeah, absolutely. You see that even though the track is heating up, more and more battles are starting to form. For example, here on screen between Marco Kika and Gary Thiel. This is the battle for P5. Marco Kika is falling behind a little bit though. Half a lap ago he was quite a bit closer. But it seems like Marco Kika is finding a little bit of speed to put Gary Thiel under more pressure. Last time around he was 1/10 of a second quicker. The lap before that he was 3/10 of a second quicker. So the Finnish driver is showing pace at the moment, trying to force Gary Thiel into a small mistake.
It seems we've seen that with a lot of drivers where they'll get right on top of someone, then there's not much wake that would upset these cars, but maybe it's visibility that's causing cars to drop back when they get so close to someone?
Yeah, it's almost like that. Yeah, I would say it's visibility, because you need to have a clear view of the turning points, the braking points, and we're really close to another car, especially on a track like this. You might just be caught out, and it's very easy to just brake 5 meters too late and just really hurt yourself in the corner that you're blindsided for.
Getting close to about halfway through this race now. Ooh, this is a very good run from Marco Kika. Question is, can he actually execute? Gary Thiel goes defensive down into Charlotte's Web. Kika sees it, tries to go the long way around. Maybe you could see an over-under coming off this hairpin, but no, it is not to be. Thiel proves why it's hard to overtake around here.
A great defensive maneuver from Thiel though, just defending that inside, and there's no way Kika will get past around the outside there unless you're really comfortable getting on throttle again. Now here outside of Museum Corner, not close enough to try and move in turn 9 and 10. You could see Marco Kika there just almost steering in a little bit too late and losing half a car length because he's just blindsided by Gary Thiel in front of him.
And I have to set him up at another opportunity. Cars work their way over the crest and then plunging down into the rising turns 14 and 15, getting tighter and tighter until it switches back here onto the front stretch out of turn 16. And once again, just can't do anything with it. We got a tight battle behind these guys. Paul Foster leading Daniel Sadro and Ove Trangaré.
Yeah, hand out the blankets, because these three drivers need one. They're extremely close at the moment. Daniel Sadro trying everything to find a way past Paul Foster, whose internet connection seems to have stabilized a bit. Ove Trangaré behind him still seems the quickest of the three. He just cannot find a way past Daniel Sadro in front of him. Although here Ove Trangaré has to check up completely sideways over that very scary bump. Almost loses his car there. He gets it.
I was going to say, I don't know about a blanket, but maybe a new pair of pants for Ove would be nice right now. Amazing car control every time we see him race a loose car. It amazes me the way that he keeps that thing out of the wall.
Oh, he's setting himself up nicely here from through Museum Corner, but he cannot go on throttle early enough. Just a little bit too late to try and move. Oh, very loose there. That's probably going to be a corner cut penalty because he went with all four wheels over the grass. Seems like the Norwegian can continue, so he is lucky there, but also lucky to just, well, like you said, Joe, just keep that car in a straight line once again.
As he swings it around wide, coming through 15, could this finally set him up? He's trying for it, and onto the front stretch. Ove Trangrade finally gets his nose inside of Daniel Sadro and gets it done. It was practically 13 whole laps in the making. And as that happened, we missed a pass for 14th. This was back at Charlotte's Web. Grant Patullo finally figured out a way past Alex Cameron. You can see sets himself up off the Alabama roller coaster, gets the run up and over 4. And despite Alex trying to go defensive, but he moves back to the racing line. Whew. Great job over that number 17. What happened to Marco Kika?
Yeah, he had a little spin. It was in Museum Corner. He actually tried a move on Gary Thiel and just braked a little bit too late. Slid into the rear, into the side of Gary Thiel. He tried to go back through to that incident. You can see it here as a very good run. Hits him there in the middle of the corner. Just slits himself around. Gary Thiel has to go through the grass, but he can continue probably with a small slowdown. No, he is actually crabbing. Yeah, he is actually crabbing. His car is broken.
Well, that is a shame, especially with the race that Gary was running. He plunges down the order. He's trying to just crawl it back to pit lane to get repairs. We're going to watch it one more time. We see 3 apexes minus 2 cars equals 1 spun car, and also 1 very damaged car. Finn having to get it turned back around immediately to get it going. And that puts Kika far, far behind 4th place Angelica Pawlowski.
And it's actually interesting to see if Marco Kika still has the pace that he had before, because Paul Foster isn't that far behind him. The gap between him and the Finn is around 1 second, especially if through Charlotte's Web Marco Kika misses his braking board by quite a margin. That will help Paul Foster to maybe get a P5 position if he can keep Ove Trangrade behind him.
I'm pretty impressed with Paul Foster and the improvement that the Aussie has had. He used to be more of, I would say, a back marker in this series, but right now fighting in the top 10 is no mean feat. And holding off Ove Trangrade, if Paul can do it, will prove his worth, I'd say, in this car. But behind them, Sadro was not able to hold back Ove. He eventually pried it away. I have to wonder if Paul has the guts to try and hold the Norwegian back, and this is where Ove did it last time, going the long way around, setting himself up for a run down into 16, but Paul is wise to that, and he chops him off.
And that's the difference between Paul and what Daniel showed when he got overtaken, because Paul just cut in that corner. He saw that he was clear of Ove Trangrade and he took that apex. But Daniel was a little bit more cautious. He gave Ove Trangrade a look up the inside, and Ove Trangrade said thank you, and he got by there. But Paul Foster, he defends a little bit more aggressively. He really wants to take the P6 home. Marco Kika in front of him does still have the speed though. Last time around he was 0.3 of a second quicker than Paul Foster. So especially if Paul and Ove Trangrade keep fighting like this, I think that Marco Kika will slowly be driving away from this fighting trio.
Well, that's good news for Marco for sure. As they hit Museum Corner one more time here. Foster's going to stay safe this time down that hill as they hit the bottom part of the course. Ove Trangrade looking left and right, poking and prodding to see if he can find a way through. And I gotta admit, this is some really clever driving that we've seen from Ove, trying alternate lines, doing and seeing where the grip is. And this final corner, it seems like he's found a little bit of a secret. I've seen a few cars in other series pull this one off, but not often. And this time he doesn't try that wide outside line. Instead he gets himself a run, and once again he's chopped off in turn 16. Paul Foster is having none of this.
And you can just see that Ove Trangrade's line through that last couple of corners is superior at this point. He just gives himself a wider line. He sets himself better up for the final 2 corners that way, but also gets a little bit more momentum, and that just creates an opportunity every time he gets through there. I think that Paul Foster maybe has to try something like that. Otherwise he might be a victim to Ove Trangrade, who gets a great run here. Takes a little look up the inside in the hairpin. Paul Foster doesn't defend. He takes the outside line, gets a little bit too loose, and he gets overtaken. That's Ove Trangrade to P6 behind him. Daniel Sadro will take a look to Paul Foster. They're not side by side. Paul Foster is still in front. Daniel Sadro backs out of that. So Paul Foster only loses 1 position. But Ove Trangrade has now his crosshairs set on Marco Kika in P5 in front of him.
Great job by Foster. At least get the car back together. Keep from losing 2 positions. That looked very hairy for a moment. Ove Trangrade has had a hard slog through the field, starting from 10th, now up to 6th. And he's got another car up in front of him. We mentioned Marco Kika starting to pull away. And who is that? Oh, Sadro, what was a pretty good run, finds himself turned the wrong direction heading into turn 14.
Hard crash or hard contact with the wall. Just as we go on board with Daniel Cedra here, just look on the left side of his car. It just goes a little bit too wide, hits the grass, and then all the grip is gone. He spins himself around hard into the wall, and he can still continue though, but he loses a few positions with that. He's currently behind Matt Wright. He's driving around the P9, and that damaged nose will not help Daniel Cedra for the final 9 laps of this race.
We had another whoa Nelly moment with Philippe Urquhart not long ago, also in turn 14. In fact, he almost got hit by, looks like Grant Petullo. See him try to collect the car back together, gets it going once again, but in the middle of the racing line, Grant taking evasive action, getting the spot away.
In the meantime, a battle that we haven't looked at for quite a while is the battle for P3. Billy Bob Wright and Angelica Pawlowski are still nose to tail on the battle for the final podium position. Dave Price and McLaren are quite a way away. McLaren is 16 seconds in front, Dave Price is 6 seconds in front. But Angelica Pawlowski is trying to get that final podium position. Billy Bob is defending with everything he's got. We were talking about it, Joe, that he was complaining about the track, that he didn't like the track that much in practice, it sounded like. Well, I think that he has found his mojo here, because he is quick, and it seems like Angelica tries and tries but just cannot find a way past the American.
Yeah, the DH driver's been poking and prodding. Billy Bob, though, hasn't been completely smooth just in this short period where we've been watching. His car looks a little shaky in some corners. A lot better here down into the braking for Charlotte's Web, and solidly off the corner. Angelica still trying to find that way through. Only has 8 laps left to try and do it, though.
Tries a different line here through Museum Corner. A little bit wider line. Tries to take more momentum, but as you could see, it just doesn't work, and actually loses a few car lengths in the trying to get close to Billy Bob through that chicane, though. That's all those car lengths, one back immediately, very quick through that section of the track. Braking here for turn 11, once again wins 1 or 2 car lengths. Different racing line, more on the outside, takes a little look on the inside of turn 13. Different racing lines on the outside, just like we saw over Trangeray do a few laps ago. But here just cannot sell himself up to take a peak on the inside of turn 15, and has to back out again as they cross the start-finish line.
And credit to Billy Bob, because he's just been holding his racing line, running what he does, and not trying to mix things up to react to Angelica. Just making sure and keeping the car on track once more, heading towards Charlotte Webb. Both of them using as much of it as they can. Angelica's not going to get a chance. We still have 18 cars still running. Gary Teal, of course, we saw the damage that he suffered, is in the pits. Robert Reynolds, we're not sure what happened to Roberts in that number 21. It is gone. And something happened to Don Good that we missed some time ago. Oh, cutting the course for Angelica certainly is not going to help the case of Pawlowski. So a slowdown penalty sends Angelica multiple seconds back.
Yeah, and that will take a while before Angelica can try to claw her way back to the rear of Billy Bob Rice there. Another battle is going on though for P10. That's the one between David Rossi and Richard Morin. That's actually heating up at the moment, as we saw a little replay there of Angelica's off. Because Richard Morin is taking a look on the inside there of Museum Corner, just backs out at the moment I'm saying that. These two drivers have been going at it for the last few laps for the last position in the top 10.
And they've also got Grant Petullo not too far behind, so if they fight too much, it could become a 3-way fight. Along the back half of the course, they run, breaking down into 12 and 13. And once again, this has been the story of the day. Morin just taking slightly different lines than the car ahead. This is more experimentation that I've seen in a long time, with cars just trying as many different lines as possible around this track.
I mean, you kind of have to on this track because overtaking is so difficult. You don't have long straights where you can use draft or something like that. So you have to find different racing lines. So you kind of have to experiment on the fly. What helps if your opponents in front of you are doing a certain thing? And that's what you're seeing with just different driving lines in corners, different approaches, different ways of cutting the apex. And you see that sometimes it works, like in the case with Overtrangulate, and sometimes it doesn't. Now in this battle, you were talking about Grand Prix behind him. Last time around, Grand Prix was 1.6 seconds quicker than David Rossi and Richard Morin. So, like you said, this will very quickly become a freeway battle.
Ooh, speaking of quickly becoming a battle, here comes Overtrangulate looking to the inside of Marco Kika. Kika slides wide off course, tries to collect the car back together. Overtrangulate has to check up to try and stay out of Kika. And amazingly, somehow Marco holds on to 5th position. I thought that spot was gone. Here goes another dive down to 16. It's the favorite spot of Overtrangulate, but it doesn't work this time.
A battle of Scandinavia here, Norway versus Finland. I don't know if they can beef with each other, but this is surely a really good battle. Marco Kika being chased down by the Norwegian. And man, that off track, I thought he would get a slowdown for that. That would surely send Overtrangulate past him, but he just could keep the Norwegian behind him. But he sees him growing looming larger and larger in his rearview mirror. Oh, Overtrangulate wiggles there, using all the track and then some, almost spinning himself around while he touches the grass. Now Marco Kika in front of him outbrakes himself in a hairpin, and that will give Trangulate an opportunity to Museum corner. He is on the outside though. They go side by side like this through the corner. Who breaks later? It seems to be Marco Kika. Overtrangulate slides through the corner there. He keeps it on the asphalt, and once again it's Marco Kika in front of him, outbraking himself slightly. Overtrangulate gets a great run out there, but the run down towards turn 9-10 is a little bit too short for the Norwegian to try and move there.
Both drivers up and over the limit to try and take 5th place. This is a fantastic battle. A lot smoother this time through 13 from both drivers. Ove recollecting himself to see what he can do in these final 4 laps. But he has been putting the pressure on to Kika, seeing if he can pry this away. They got to be careful, though, because they're losing a lot of time to the car behind Paul Foster, who hasn't had the pace, has been regaining it with all the action these two have seen.
Now Overtrangulate sliding his way through turn 1, but cannot get it lined up to try and move. Also, Marco Kika, though, gets a little bit away from the apex, just slides up the track slightly, and that will give an opportunity to Overtrangulate. He's very quick through the turn 4 corner, tries it around the outside. We've seen him try this on lap 1 or 2 early in the race. That time it didn't work. This time it doesn't work either. Marco Kika just on the inside has a better run, less track to cover, and that helps him a lot in the end. And he doesn't seem close enough to try and move here into the downhill section of turn 7 and 8.
Overtrangulate has gotten out the kitchen sink, trying everything possible to take this away. And so far, nothing is working, but he's oh so close a number of times to executing on that pass. Only 3 laps to go now up ahead of them. Claridge a long ways up. And I think we had another spin. Jean-Francois got the car turned around in Charlotte's Web.
Yeah, it's a little bit before that actually. On the rundown to Charlotte's Web, he just got loose over that little bump of turn 4. Hit the wall quite hard though on the exit, and let's see if he can continue. But I wouldn't be surprised if he has some suspension damage, and seeing his car drive around now, I think that's race over for Jean-Francois Buscus.
Yeah, just before we switched over, we saw another try from Trangulate down into 16. It did not work. Kika stays ahead. There's a lot of battles that we're having to keep our eyes on, not just this one for 5th. There's a battle for 3rd going on. There's a battle for 10th going on, as drivers all over desperate now. Ove's got another run down into Charlotte's Web. And it's this repeat that we've seen now 2 times where he can get close, he can get side by side into the corner. It's just getting by around that hairpin that's proving too difficult.
And the thing that's happening though is that Marco Kika, as they get really close there through Museum corner, they just avoid it. It almost seems like Marco Kika is driving at 100%, 105% of his capabilities, because the amount of times that he outbrakes himself in corners is tremendously high. Like he does it 1 or 2 times per lap, and that keeps giving over Trangerate opportunities. Just a few corners ago in turn 5 that happened, and that almost saw over Trangerate pass. It almost seems like Marco Kika is getting a little bit in his head that he has to do everything in his power to keep over Trangerate behind him. It's working so far, but he's really putting everything on the line at this moment.
A lot of slipping and sliding around as they come back to the front stretch one more time. These drivers still fighting hard, including for third place. Billy Bob Wright and Angelica Pawlowski heading down to one of the popular passing spots. Billy Bob doesn't have Angelica anywhere near to him, and yet he still goes defensive down to that hairpin, I'd say, when he didn't need to.
I mean, I can understand though, because the rundown between turn 4 and turn 5, Billy Bob was quicker, but before that Angelica was very close, and with 2 more laps to go, you just want to cover off the potential dive bomb in that corner, because it's really easy to do it there. Billy Bob stays, however, in front of Angelica, doesn't lose a lot of time by driving defensively there. With only 1.5 lap to go, he can feel the pressure building up, and his hands getting sweatier and sweatier there.
White flag is now out. McClarridge starting the final lap of this race, absolutely dominating, taking a page out of Michel Dudignon's book while he's gone 16, almost 17 seconds.
Sorry, very heavy battle going on for P10. That's David Rossi being overtaking back Richard Morin there for P10. Grand Prix behind him, very close, trying to see if there's any popcorn up for grabs. No, there isn't none so far, but this battle really goes on to the wire. Very heavy battle for the last position in the top 10.
Heavy battles everywhere. Just hard to know where to put the cameras here as we continue to watch Morin put the pressure on down into the second chicane. And that one isn't working today. McClarridge, though, himself coming up to the final few corners. And he's managed to lap all but up to 15th position. Hideki Koivisto ahead of him on a track through 14, now up to 15. He hasn't had a whole lot of screen time this race. I don't think he really wanted it. McClarridge wanted a nice, smooth victory to help gain the points, and he is going to win here in Alabama in round 5 today.
Over Trangerate, hard in the wall. He tried to keep it side by side with Marco Kika through Museum Corner. He couldn't help it. Smashed himself in the wall. You can see him crabbing over the grass. Now that's the race over for the Norwegian in the final lap of the race.
Battle for third is not over. Billy Bob Wright has one more corner to try and keep Angelica Pawlowski behind, and he's going to do it. A podium position for Billy Bob Wright. Angelica, though, a well-earned 4th and 6th place. Paul Foster may have gotten bumped up by some of those incidents, but look at this behind him. Matt Wright, seeing if he could take it away. It's 2 Aussies fighting it out, but I think Foster's going to come away the victor.
Yeah, the P10 battle is now a P9 battle with David Rossi leading Grand Prix. Let's see, it is, who is the other? Hideki Koivisto, who's now away from that battle, but let's see, David Rossi, he's still leading Grand Prix. He will get one more opportunity to get by, cannot get it done in the last corner, and that's David Rossi coming home, P9 here at Barber.
As 12th finishes up across the line, a lot of really close finishes here. Poor Ove Trangerate. I think his message afterwards says it all. It just says, mess that up. And I think we actually have a replay of the incident since we missed it. Let's take a look. We've seen this one before. Got side by side on his way down towards Museum Corner. It's on the outside again, tries to take it as late as absolutely possible, but the car snaps. There's a bump off the track that sends him careening into the Armco.
A heartbreak for Ove Trangerate for him to have that happen in the last lap. He really gave it all here. He had a great run out of turn 5, but just ran out of grip there on the outside and got into the wall. Now another driver that had some problems on the last lap, I think, was Richard Morin, because it seems like he ran out of fuel. He of course was involved in a great battle with David Rossi, Grand Prix. Now in the end, Richard Morin only finished in P15 as he ran out of fuel, presumably in turn 1 of the last lap.
It's a little bit of a shame right at the very end, but we're going to take a break. We will be back, though, with more here, including the official results as well as driver interviews. On screen, though, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Barber Motorsports Park, where we just saw round 5 in the iRacing Grand Prix Legends Series with the Lotus 49. Mick Claridge gets his first win of the season. I'm not sure if it's going to be bittersweet, though, because Michel Dudignon wasn't here to defend. But regardless, points are points, and maximum are taken by Mick Claridge. Dave Price really did not have any sort of answer for Mick at the end, finishing a distant second place. Billy Bob Wright had to sweat for that third for the podium spot because Angelica Pawlowski pushing hard Billy all the way to the end. Angelica taking fourth. Marco Kika as well in a huge titanic battle with Ove Trankrade and taking fifth place because of it. But it's Paul Foster who finishes behind in sixth after an error from Ove. Matt Wright takes seventh behind them, with Daniel Sadro finishing in eighth and David Rossi taking ninth. Grant Patullo did recover from those early positions lost to get 10th.
Finishes just in front of P11, Philippe Urquhart. P12 goes to Alex Cameron, one of the hard chargers here today, winning 6 positions since his starting position. Hideki Kofiso is the last driver on the lead lap. He comes home in P13. Then we see Ove Trankrade. That finishing position doesn't tell the story because, man, what did the Norwegian have a run today through the field. However, in that last lap, he had some misfortune and he is only classified in P14. So misfortune also for Richard Morin, who presumably ran out of fuel on the last lap, classified in P15. A few drivers behind him that were finishing a lap down, including Telmo Amaral. He's classified in P16. And then a few drivers that also crashed out during the event. Jean-François Boscus classified in P17. He is there in front of Francisco Javier Gutierrez, Don Good, Gary Thiel, and Robert Reynolds.
That is going to be our finishing order. Well, we said Mick Claridge finally got a win, so let's talk to him about this race. Mick, I'm curious to know your emotions knowing that Michel didn't show up today. Mick, do you have a copy? Well, looks like maybe we won't get to talk to Mick here. We'll give him a second to see if he can get his mic set up. He usually is the first one to ask if we can hear him. So hopefully we'll be able to know exactly how Mick feels about this one. I would imagine that a win still feels good regardless as we wait just one more moment. Mick, do you have a copy?
Oh, can you hear me now?
We got you. All right, now we got Mick. Mick, how do you feel about this one, considering your main rival didn't show up?
I knew he wasn't coming. He said about it last weekend, so no, I knew he wasn't going to be here today. But no, I still pushed. Still wanted to go for it. As much as I could because I really like this track.
And after that one is over, this is a very difficult track to drive. And I see you cut this one awful close on incidents. Were you getting nervous towards the end?
No, do you know what? There's such an annoying curb. It's after the I don't know any of the names of the corners, but the blind chicane, the one before that, the big chicane, like the second curb on that, I always cut it, and I just can't stop doing it. But no, it doesn't bother me. I can always slow down and miss the curb, but where's the fun in that?
Well, it still managed to get you a victory out there today. Considering this it won't exactly cut into the points once the drop weeks are taken into account, do you feel like you need to do more to try and catch Michelle in the remainder of the season?
Next week's going to be a tough week. Next week can be anyone's up front. Anyone can make a mistake next week. And then I think I said before, I got a few tracks coming up that I really think, well, I know I'll be on pace. Spa will be a trouble, and Monza's anyone's race. So no, I think it's going to get a bit better second half of the season for me. So yeah, looking forward to it now.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you give a run towards the Frenchman. That was Mick Claridge, our winner here today. And up next, we have second place, who didn't get a whole lot of screen time himself. Johan's talking to Dave Price.
Dave Price, congratulations with your second place here today at Barber. It kind of seemed like a calm race for you. You qualified in P2, you finished in P2. How was it from your perspective?
Yeah, hi there. It wasn't the most exciting race. I was about half a second, I think, off mixed pace and about the same ahead of Billy and Angelica. So it was just really a question of just not making too many mistakes. I think the most exciting thing that happened was at the end of lap 5. I managed to get a false neutral coming down the straight. I had a bit of a panic there, but other than that, just keep circulating. And I knew I wasn't going to catch Mick after that unless he made a mistake. Although I did notice on the official iRacing result, it said he got disqualified for those burnouts at the end. So I'm not sure what that means.
Well, we'll see in the end if that actually means that you get bumped up a position. One thing that I wanted to ask you, though, Dave Price, is because we were looking at your pace in practice, and it seemed really promising there. You were a tenth quicker than Mick Claridge when we did the first lap in qualifying as well. You were also on professional pole position. But then it kind of seemed like a changing point happened when you didn't get in your second qualifying lap. What exactly happened there? Was it an off-track that caught you out, or was it something else?
Yeah, I got a one by in that in that chicane in the second half of the circuit. Just clipped the grass coming through. It was a shame because I was about 2/10 up on my personal best, and that would have put me probably, I don't know, about 20.6, 20.7. So I've been a bit closer to Mick, but of course you still start in the same place anyway. So it was a little frustrating, but I don't think it really affected the result.
Very good. Well, now we go away from Barber. We go to Australia to Bathurst. How are you liking that track? Is it something that you look forward to in this Lotus 49 cars?
Yeah, I do like racing there. I won't actually be here next week because I'm doing the Daytona 24-hour race with one or two of the other 49ers. So I've only got a certain amount of time available each Saturday to complete with real life. So I'll be doing that. So I'll actually miss that. So I'll look forward to watching on the broadcast.
Very good. Well, good luck at least at the Daytona 24-hour race, and then we'll hope to see you the week after back in the Lotus 49s.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks a lot, guys.
That was Dave Price, our finisher here in P2. Now, in the meantime, you have caught up with P3, Billy Bob Wright.
Billy Bob really had to work. Complete opposite of what we saw with Claridge and Price. Billy Bob, Angelica certainly made you earn that third place, I'd say. Billy Bob, do you got a copy?
Hey, you got me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay, thanks, man. Yeah, that was if you guys might remember long ago me talking about a soaker, and that was one. I want to thank three people. I want to thank Mick Claridge for a nice set, because I hate this place. Did I mention that? I hate this place. Anyway, Mick gave me a set, and it worked really well, obviously. I want to thank Roman for having a bad qualifying, because as you guys saw, if he'd have been in front of me at the start, he'd have been gone. And I'd like to thank Uwe for coming back, and also for not practicing in the car for several weeks, because I think those three things are key to me being in third place today.
You got to take what you can get. You talk about not liking this track. Is there any part in particular, or any aspect of it that you don't like? What is it that doesn't jive with you?
To me, it always feels like everything's a little too short. I'm too rushed all the time. You can never, ever relax on this thing. And it's just, to me, it's not why I drive the 49. I drive the 49 for, Eau Rouge and those big corners, iconic corners, the carousel, stuff like that. I love to be in this car, really flying with the car, wagging around. And but, I think if I look back on my record here at Barber, I've actually had, I think, podiums every time I've been here. I'd have to go check it, but I can't complain a whole lot about that. Hey, I want to give a shout out for my my endurance teammate, Roman, Angelica Roman. Man, this guy, as a rookie, is really flying, and I'm sure that given a little more time in the car, he's going to be a real threat for the top spot. So really good race from him today.
Absolutely. So speaking of teammates, so we heard that a couple drivers are doing the 24 next week. Are you among them that's going to skip out on Bathurst, or will you be here? Will we see you at Australia?
That's yet to be determined. I've got some real world stuff going on that may actually keep me off the server for the next few weeks. I'm going to find out more about that in the next 30 minutes. But my goal is to drive at Bathurst, and then to drive in the 24. And I hope I get to do that, because I love Bathurst, and I love the 24 event too. It's just a lot of fun. So looking forward to that. But we'll find out here in the next few minutes whether I'll be able to do it.
Well, congratulations on another podium. And I've heard some drivers say before that if you're really good at a track, you can't hate it for too long. So we'll see if your opinion changes as time goes on. Congratulations on third.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, Mick said that eventually it'll click and I will learn to love this place. Actually, he also said this track loves me. But obviously, I guess he's right, because, hey, again, another podium here. So thanks, guys. Always fun, and look forward to seeing you hopefully soon.
Good to see you two again, Billy Bob. That was our third place finisher, Billy Bob Wright. We want to thank the Lotus 49 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage, as well to iRacing for putting us on the iRacing Esports Network. If you have a moment, please click subscribe so that you don't miss any more action here on IES, including what's happening right now. The Roar Before the 24 is being aired. So nice lower powered cars running around Daytona. Put on some excellent action. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. You can see them listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Johan, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Head on over to GSRC's YouTube page too, because we also have a subscribe button that we'd like you to hit there as well, because we have all sorts of racing that you can find on our channel. Next race, as we mentioned, that'll be Bathurst, Saturday, January 19th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.